Okay, here we go. Yes. There's Debbie. Hello, Debbie. She's doing a fantastic job. Do that. All right. Let's go. Yes. I'm going to get to that. I'm definitely going to get to that story. Okay. Here we go. Let's see. Okay. All right. We are going to start in just 4 minutes. 4 minutes on this muggy Wednesday. Yes. Yes, Gian. Now, let me check X. X looks smooth. Yes, Diddy is free. I don't know if there's justice. I don't know. We're going to find out. Yes. Sherry, Brian Kohlberg is not going to be free. He's just, and I'm going to touch on that. I disagree with some of the individuals that are commenting on this Kohlberger case. He's not going free. I will touch on that, though. We have time. I also want to talk a little bit about this situation in Pawtucket. So we're going to start in just 3 minutes, everyone. Yes, Road Patrol Live tonight. And then I will be on the air tomorrow. And then Friday night, we're riding 4th of July with the Westerly Police. So that should be great. So, and then all weekend long, we do our police stuff. We have other things other than just court cases. Yes, we do, as a matter of fact. Make sure you follow this. Jane Rice. Good afternoon. I'm telling you, Dale, it does test your patience. It does. I'm going to touch on that. I don't know. Is justice for sale? It starts to feel that way a little bit. There we go. I don't know. A lot going on. Is justice for sale? Yes. It starts to feel that way a little bit. It does. There we go. I don't know. A lot going on. Is justice for sale? Yes. Very good on our YouTube connection. There we go. Okay. This Harriet Brown. All right, folks, 2 minutes. 2 minutes out. 2 minutes. And then we shall begin. We start at 1:06. I always get, apparently some people are confused by that. Sometimes later I'll see the comments. People say, what is this? Why doesn't he start talking? I don't understand either. I think it goes beyond just that. Brian Kohlberger expected to plead guilty to the murders. I'm going to touch on that. Yes. Not, Diddy not guilty. Wow. Now that, just also keep in mind, that was the Biden administration that brought that case. That was not the current, that was not the Pam Bondi administration that brought that case. So we're going to touch on that. And the police are under fire. I think the police, I believe that, you're seeing it in Pawtucket. Again, if you're watching on Facebook, you can share, as I will, to my story. And then we're going to start right around 1:06. Yes. Okay. Apparently it is, Jonna. Apparently it is. All right, we're going to begin. We shall begin. Well, folks, good afternoon. Wednesday, July 2nd. Yes, we are live right now. I know. It's a lot to take in. We're live on AM 1380, 99.9 FM. Now, We're also live on our Facebook page. We're live on DePietro.com, which you just click listen live. And then we're also live on our, as I said, Facebook page, our YouTube page, which continues to grow. Make sure you follow that. And then also on X, which we continue to also, I know, that's right, Mike, and grow. This portion of our program is justice for sale. I'll tell you, justice feels under attack. Justice feels under attack. But this portion of the program is brought to you by PR Landscape Materials in Garden Center, 3688 Quaker Lane in North Kingstown. Now, they are, blown out. They're open 7 days a week. There's a big weekend coming up. Why not pop in? And they have a beautiful selection on annuals, perennials, trees and shrubs, hanging pots, 10-inch, 12-inch moss baskets, hanging impatiens, pansy, marigold bags, large selection of beautiful patio pots, vegetable plants and herbs, tropical mandevillas, hibiscus plants, and more. Screen loom and mulch are available. They are a full-scale nursery. It's PR Landscape Materials in Garden Center. They're open 7 days a week. Look for them on Facebook and stop in. They also have unique items, a handmade, custom-made birdhouse, not just something you buy off the rack, custom-made. No two are the same. That's a great gift. That's a beautiful gift to present to someone. Or I get it, someone showing up, right, for a cookout, and okay, so you bring a bottle of wine, or, here's some brew, but you could bring them a nice plant, some nice flowers, beautiful patio pots, vegetable plants and herbs. They have great, they have everything. Tomatoes, corn. PR Landscape Materials in Garden Center, 3688 Quaker Lane in North Kingstown. I know Jane Rice enjoys it. Now, folks, remember, you can always visit someone. So I share Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, Rhode Island Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, giving one of his ridiculous speeches. And I share that. I share that to make people aware. And I do see a comment, someone saying, so do you like it? Oh, yeah, I like him in AOC. What is wrong with you? No, I'm sharing it to show you how preposterous this is. However, you can always log on to DePietro.com and learn more about the chosen one. DEPPTRO.com. We also have links to all of our social media right there, and we are overdue to post. We have video. That's where we post a lot of our Road Patrol Live and other videos and stories. It's all on DePietro.com, brought to you by the Coesit Inn, 226 Coesit Avenue, West Warwick. Lunch, dinner, drinks in the lounge, plus the market at Coesit. They're waiting for you at the Coesit Inn. Now, summertime, a lot of people use propane. Don't forget about Propane Plus, 401-885-4209, or in Massachusetts, 508-252-3359. Propane Plus for all your heating and cooling. They have a very user-friendly website, residential and commercial. It's propaneplus.com. So I want to touch on, good afternoon again, one and all. I want to touch on, I'm telling you, Heather, it does feel that way. I'll say this. After sitting through being in a courtroom since April 2nd, with the Diddy trial, there's so much of that. That's the big news today. And then Brian Kohlberger, I'm going to touch on that as well. But I do want to mention, with the Diddy trial, that was brought by the Biden administration. And those are some pretty serious charges. It was not televised. So you don't fully get, to me, the feel. Those types of trials, it's so different. It's such a different experience when you can watch it. And obviously the Karen Reed trial, you could watch that on Court TV and then all the different streaming devices that people could watch it. People have asked me, would you stream a local trial? I'm telling you, my experience has been around here, the courts are not that friendly to those types of broadcast. But anyhow, with the Diddy trial, what we don't know, now I didn't follow it day in, day out. Some people did. But what we don't know is you don't know what evidence somehow got excluded. Those are very serious charges that they brought. But I think there's also a danger with it's one thing someone receives notice, summons for jury duty. And I do believe in the past, when I've covered trials, a lot of times it was older people. A lot of times it was retired people. A lot of times jury duty was not going to be that long, maybe a week, a couple weeks. But people take time out of work. I'm sure anyone that's listening or watching, you know of people that they get jury duty and then they try to get out of it, summoned for it for various reasons. So then it leaves to who does get summoned, who does go. And I think what we have to watch out for is the element of, in the past, someone would receive a summons, they'd get called for jury duty. And this almost sounds contrite at this point, but, someone might think, I'm going to be a good citizen. You don't hear people talk about that anymore. But my civic duty, I'm going to go and sit on a jury. It would be interesting, be part of the process. I think now, though, it's become a motivator. If people view it as potentially, not everyone obviously, but potentially as a way of, like a ticket to stardom, as a way to, I'm not even going to say write a book anymore, because not as many people are writing books. I know not as many people are reading books. You want to talk about an industry that is way down, it's publishing. The reason the reason why people started reading was because they didn't have video. Now, anyone that has children, or no matter if they're under 30, everything, they just watch things. They just look for a video on it. They don't read it. Not most don't. I'm not saying all. But I think it's a way of, maybe I could be a somebody. Maybe I could be an influencer. You have someone who has kind of a mundane job. And this is potentially a ticket to something more exciting, not guaranteed, but it's better than what they're doing now, better than stocking shelves at Target. Suddenly now, they're on social media. Maybe, again, they dream. Maybe someone will offer me a huge deal. Maybe I'll become famous. What they know is, I'm not going to make a lot of money or potentially be famous by just doing Uber. And I mean driving. Or, okay, I do DoorDash. I don't think I'm going to be famous that way. This is, at least it's a shot, right? Like, at least there's a chance. You're telling me there's a chance from Dumb and Dumber. And I think that's a problem, because I know some of the people involved, at least two with the Reed situation, they are thinking of writing a book. Maybe that turns into a Netflix deal. My point is, I don't know if they're there to judge. It's supposed to be the jury, and then they decide. And then keep in mind, you have Luigi Mangione hanging in the wings. Someone put the other day, I think in the chat, Alan Jackson has signed on with Luigi. I can't find anything on that. I don't know who said that. I don't remember. If there's someone that has seen that, he did just sign on to a very high-profile case in Malibu, California, of which the parents are of means. The parents could write a check for $1 million plus. See how that works out? Suddenly, he's in demand. Maybe more. Maybe says to the parents, this is going to be a $2 million case. Hey, whatever you can do. With this kid that apparently, allegedly, killed 4 girls, part of a sorority, I believe at Pepperdine. So in Malibu, the kid got a sports car he got a very expensive BMW, I think, for his 18th birthday. It was part of the divorce settlement. But anyhow, but suddenly, look who they want. Look how they reach out and get. So, and I'm going to touch on the Brian Kohlberger case in just a moment. So as far as the Diddy trial, I didn't follow it as much day to day. It's tough if you're not following it. it's tough if you're not in the. I'll tell you, it's tough if you're not in the courtroom and get a real sense of it. Because, and also, what we also learned, if yes, that's right, Mark D. What we've also learned is many of these, and I don't hear anyone talk about this, but I think many of these cases seemingly can be won or lost on many of the motions that are argued outside of the jury. Maybe there's a witness they want to testify, and then it's battled on. Maybe there's evidence they want let in. If anything, for those that followed, and I always try to tell people this, if people would stop, like these people that say, you picked the wrong side, it's not a matter of picking sides. It's you follow where the evidence leads. This isn't you're sitting down on a Saturday afternoon and you're going to watch some college football and then bet on which team. It's not, you picked the wrong, it's not a matter of picking sides. But my point is, I don't know if enough is focused on many of these motions. Whether or not someone can testify as an expert. It seems very, very important with a lot of these cases. This portion of our program is brought to you by Kids Club on the Pike. Kids Club on the Pike. Remember, birthday party venue, before and after school camp, preschool. They run a great summer camp. Kids Club on the Pike. They're also hiring, by the way. Boy, that sounds fun. Call them right off of 295 on the Cranston-Johnston line. Kids Club on the Pike, 401-443-5336. Kids Club on the Pike. And they run a great summer camp. Maybe it's for a week. Maybe it's for a month. Maybe it's for the whole summer. Kids Club on the Pike. Right off of 295. Kristen, they do a fantastic job. 401-443-5336. I started to mention, waiting in the wings is this Luigi Mangione case. But I want to touch on the Kohlberger case. And what I mean by that is, what if someone wants to get on that jury? What if, this is then how is that, when you start to have jurors mislead, not be straightforward. A juror who wants to get on a case, I believe that's very problematic. And I'm not convinced. Maybe you could argue certain high-profile cases, people heard about the case and wanted to be on it. But now I think there's other motives that come with it. I think the Luigi Mangione case is one potentially to watch, because there were and are a lot of people that were cheering for him. He's the one that gunned down the CEO of United Healthcare, Brian Thompson, right in New York City. And he got out of there. And then he was caught in Pennsylvania. They didn't know who they were looking for. They had no idea where he was. When you think about it, if he had just gone to the McDonald's drive-thru, they found him, if I remember, with the gun. I mean, he made it out of New York, got himself to Pennsylvania. If he had just hit McDonald's drive-thru instead of sitting there eating, I think it was breakfast, and someone's like, hey, that looks like, his photo. Totally could have got it. But that's a case you have to be weary of, because then now what do you do? What do you do with people that mislead the jury system? It's pretty loose. I was hearing about a case from a defense attorney that I talked to. And he said after a trial, he learned that one of the jurors lived with their parents. And he would go home each night and over dinner tell his parents, you're not supposed to do that, about the case. And they were giving input and they were following the case. And I don't know how old he was, in his 20s son, they led him to you're not supposed to do that. That's not supposed to work that way. But I want to talk about the Kohlberger case, because I hear people saying, now we're never going to know what happened. I think we know what happened. I'll just say, I heard part of Nancy Grace, who I know. I've been on the Nancy Grace when she had a show on Headline News. It was almost like CNN 2, and then it was just Headline News, and she had a program on that. And I was on with Nancy Grace I don't know, like 50 times, like a bunch of times on different cases, because I would go to court and cover it, or just different things that I would go to where there was a scene. I was almost like kind of unofficially, but her New England correspondent. But I heard Nancy Grace this morning on Fox News, and she was saying kind of akin to, now we're never going to know what motivated Brian Kohlberg to do this. And where I jump off from this is that there's never, you're not going to learn a legitimate reason. You're dealing with a psychopath. First of all, they don't take the stand. And even if it's not a logical reason. Now, those in Rhode Island, we've never, Craig Price is still incarcerated. He's never talked about, he killed that woman, and then he killed that woman and her 2 daughters. He's never talked about it. I don't know if we need to hear from him. As if someone's arguing, now we're never going to know why he did it. There's no logical reason why someone does something like that, other than they're a total psychopath. And whatever reason they may come up with, it wouldn't be logical, or you wouldn't come away saying, now I think differently. It wouldn't be, wow, I think differently of that person now. No, it's gibberish. It's moronic. Look at the Boston Marathon bummer, the brother that lived. He's still alive, and they're still trying to go through the death penalty. I mean, he's never going to come up with a logical explanation of why he did it. And Kohlberg is the same way. There's something wrong with him. He, killed those students. So I believe some of the individuals that are complaining there won't be a trial, which is very traumatic for families. And it's long. And right now, who has confidence in the jury system right now? All right, he's taking a plea, and in exchange for not getting the death penalty, he's going to get life in prison. As long as he can't get out, and then the family doesn't have to go through it, I think where I break off is this notion that by taking the plea deal, we will never learn why he did that. I would argue that there's never something that makes sense. I don't think that many of these individuals that commit many of these heinous crimes, there isn't any logical reason. So I'm not convinced there is anything to gain by it, other than I think there are some platforms, programs that benefit. And they figured, Kohlberger, this should be good for 2 months of coverage. And now it pivots into, now else, what are we going to cover? But that's not a reason to put someone on trial, by the way. Folks, this portion of our program brought to you by Arch Design Builders. Now, you're listening or watching. Maybe you've been thinking, have you been, of how about a brand new kitchen, redone, or bathroom, or basement, or deck? Maybe you want to remodel your home, some kind of a special project or a deck. Arch Design Builders, 401-207-4124. 401-207-4124. Now look for them on social media. It's Ed and Roxanne with Arch Design Builders, 401-207-4124. But it all starts with the phone call and the meeting. So if you're listening or watching, and you say, I have been thinking of redoing our kitchen. Or maybe, we would like a nice deck. Or, I've been thinking of redoing this bathroom. I can't make it any easier. I am plugging you in with the best. We're Arch Design Builders. High-end, custom-build customer service, 401-218-9707. It all starts with that first meeting with Ed and Roxanne for Arch Design Builders. Now, with Kohlberger, though, I maintain that. I think our justice system with some of the jurors, he signed his work. Okay. I I don't agree with this notion that as a result of that, I don't think it would have. Oh, okay. Here we go. Okay, earlier, Providence News, there was a warrant served, alleged Medicaid fraud company operating out of a Providence mill building. Now, I posted that for the subscribers. So they were serving a warrant there for fraud, Medicaid fraud investigation, alleged Medicaid fraud. Search warrants, 715 branch. Unique Diversity Innovations is being investigated, billing Medicaid services it did not provide. The unit investigates allegations of fraud, patient abuse, neglect, exploitation, facilities that receive Medicaid funding. So, officers wearing jackets labeled Attorney General walked into the building carrying, I think they walked out of the building carrying boxes. Providence Police. No charges or arrests are expected at this time. Let me just check this Unique Diversity Innovations. Never heard of them. There's a lot of fraud in those areas. So that's what I mean. I had people saying, "Well, there's something going on." I mean, it was all inside. I spoke to a couple of people. They told me what it was. Unique Diversity. There it is. The mill. Yeah. They have a website. About. Let's see. Not a lot of information. A little sketchy, to say the very least. And then any negative reviews? Not that I see. All right. They're also on Facebook. There's so much fraud out there, folks. But at the same time, there were individuals who got away with a lot of the COVID fraud. Now, I also want to touch on, not only we're talking about, I think there's an argument that the justice seems to be almost for sale a little bit. And I think it's interesting. There are some people that will start to play into that like that's a way to get around it. And I'm talking about some of these high profile type cases. I think the Luigi Mangione one in New York, that's going to be one to watch. I don't know. Brian Walsh, he's set to go on case in Massachusetts. He allegedly killed his wife, Anna Walsh, in their home in Cohasset. Is there some nutcase that wants to get on that jury? Some true crime person? This could become very problematic very quickly if our jury systems start getting infiltrated from people that want to then cash in on it, or worse, help them get off. Now, this portion of the program, remember when disaster strikes, ServPro of Providence comes in. Fire, water damage. Maybe, you have a pipe burst. Something goes wrong. Fire, water. With ServPro of Providence, they're fast, thorough, professional. Call them today, 401-941-5500. Let's say you have a fire at your commercial building. Now what do? Not only do you have fire damage, now you have water damage. And then mold can come in. Call ServPro of Providence. 24/7 they're available. 7 days a week. You call them anytime, at midnight, 3 in the morning, any time of day. 401-941-5500. This is what they do. This is who I would call. ServPro of Providence. 401-941-5500. Maybe you have a flood or mold or fire. ServPro of Providence. I share their social media. 401-941-5500. Now, obviously where we are, as I've talked about, there's a growing anti-police sentiment. I obviously don't play into that, but I'm seeing within 7 seconds of throwing open his cruiser door, A Pawtucket police officer shot across a wide intersection, wounding a mentally disabled man holding a toy gun. Now, we were there live in Pawtucket, and you could tell right away that there was something wrong. But let me just pull up this story that they have in the Globe. I know that there was a protest. This is another example. These people now want to sue the city of Pawtucket. People protesting, going after the police. Folks, you're a member of law enforcement, and there's so many different guns that are out on the street. What are you supposed to do? How is an officer supposed to know that someone has some kind of mental challenge? How are they supposed to know it's a toy gun? The position we're putting, what the fallout of George Floyd, the fallout of that is, everyone laughed when they talked about the whole defund the police, but what they haven't, Connecticut Democrats are terrible. They are. But what no one talks about is it has taken an effect on policing, because there are people that think, who would want to go through that? Why do I want to be in that situation? So Pawtucket police release edited video and shooting a mentally disabled man with a toy gun. Well, there's two things about it. When they pulled up Thomas Letourneau, body-worn Cambridge, after he shot 28-year-old Sebastian Yadana, a mentally disabled man holding a toy gun. All right, well, when he showed up, he didn't know he was mentally disabled, and he didn't know it was a toy gun. Within 7 seconds of throwing open his cruiser door, the Pawtucket police officer shot across a wide intersection. Vehicles waited at a traffic light, wounding a mentally disabled man holding a toy gun 150 feet away. The scene captured by surveillance video from a local restaurant. 16 videos City of Pawtucket released last night. I will be posting them later. I've just been jammed on something. Numerous public record requests. It's also the only video the city released that shows the shooting. The footage from the body-worn camera was edited to show only 4 minutes and 2 seconds after the shooting occurred. The clip begins with Letourneau handcuffing James Dean, a resident who was tackled by police who yelled at officers not to shoot Yadana. It's labeled redacted, does not show the shooting itself. Letourneau could be heard trying to catch his breath and cursing. Another officer walks him to a cruiser, tells him to take a seat inside. Blank, my body camera's on. Blank. Throws his sunglasses. Don't talk to anybody, all right? Take a breath. The other videos capture the chaotic aftermath. Swarm of officers responded. Jumped out of the officer, Matthew Lavasser, jumped out of his cruiser, guns drawn, shouting at Dean, a resident shouting at police. He stood with Yadana. Get out of the way so we can help him. I think that guy was on my video. He's just walking around screaming at police. Now, that was also the guy that said there were 6 shots when it was 1 shot. Lavasser was the first officer to reach Yadana. He called for rescue, yelled for gloves, asked for his name. I might die, Yadana answered. I hope, a barely audible screams, I hope I die. You're not going to die, buddy. He pulled on gloves, put pressure on the bleeding wound. Was it an officer who did this? Lavasser asked. Yes. Dean had his hands in the air, screaming, toy gun. Shout for him to get on the ground. This is the guy, Dean, again. This guy was walking around screaming when I was there. Tackled Dean to the pavement. They handcuffed him. Why am I getting arrested? You're not helping a situation. That's why. One officer picked up the camouflage-colored, orange-tipped plastic toy gun that Yadana dropped when he was shot. When the officer saw it, he sounded confused. That's not the gun. Officer Nicholas Didana can be heard saying in the video, where's the real gun? Yadana had been playing with the toy gun as he stood at the corner of Gough Avenue and Broad Street, outside his apartment building at 10 Gough. We were outside that building. He's been doing that with the gun the last couple of days out here, going up to people's cars, a woman was saying. What are the police supposed to think? There's a guy going up to people in cars with a toy gun that looks real. God, these people. Scott Fuentz, another resident, was taken into custody. Heard on video saying Yadana had been outside with a toy gun. He heard sudden pops of gunfire. I hope that kid don't die. Who the blank shot him? Oh, there he is. Bullets also struck a parked vehicle in the front of the Blackstone Valley Community Action Program. Yadana's family said the video do not explain why he was shot. He's standing with a toy gun. And they're screaming. Yadana was diagnosed bipolar disorder, schizophrenia when he was in his late teens. The police are aware of his mental illness. Oh, there's a photo of him. He's lucky to be alive. He bore no ill will against the officer. He was surprised when he heard the gunfire. I was still so cool and confident. I didn't think I was in danger. I want to touch on this and mention this again, that I think, this officer, look how his life is turned upside down. Now, I'm aware he got shot in the shoulder, I believe, or the arm. Listen, it could have been fatal. What if, in fact, yeah, that's right. What if, in fact, he shot him in the head? It wouldn't have this type of outcome. It absolutely would not have this type of outcome. I have a problem the way these people look in just that story that I mentioned. As if the police are supposed to know all the different people, and they're supposed to know all the different mental there are people that are deranged. There are people that are mentally challenged that get their hands on weapons. That happens. I think right now, Pawtucket police, to me, they seem under attack. And there's a lot of violence in Pawtucket right now. There's a gang war going on in Pawtucket right now. And it's going to be a long, violent summer. What are you supposed to do? You're a police officer. No, again, they'll go through it. Maybe he overreacted. Maybe I don't know enough yet about it. We'll let it play out. But I just hate when members of law enforcement are put in this position, because then there's a lot of people that say, who needs that? And I want to also, remember, there's a guy that just won the Democrat mayoral in New York City. He's talking about emptying the prisons and basically saying, like, you don't need the police. We're going to have New York City with no police. We're going to have community social workers if there's any type of problem. Who would want to live there in that anarchy? Folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by J. Perry Paving. Now, remember, right now, they have a great deal package for veterans called J. Perry Paving. Free estimate, any project. But if you're a veteran, they have a special package for you. Letter J, J. Perry Paving. Call them for a free quote. And if you're a veteran, or your dad is, or your mom, or maybe a brother, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, or aunt, J. Perry Paving. Call them 401-732-1730. Fantastic package for veterans. And they do that. I have covered and filmed when they've also picked out a veteran and done his driveway for free. J. Perry Paving, 401-732-1730. Letter J, Perry Paving. Well, folks, again, good afternoon. The situation, as I was saying, this situation in New York City, do you see where we seemingly are entering into this period of almost like lawlessness that's happening right now, where the police are being made to not only be the bad guy, but they're the corrupt bad guy. And there are examples of, you have that Providence police officer. She's in a lot of trouble. She was held without bail. Providence police officer living in Pawtucket and seemingly living with a drug dealer. And number one, you're going to be fired. And number two, held without bail. But that's not all. Like right now, we can't have people losing faith in the system. But in many ways, the system needs to be adjusted. I think this business of almost could enter an age of a little bit. I'm not going to say celebrity jurors, but a little bit let's see, with all these trials, if someone ends up, in fact, getting a little bit more than just the, as they say, the trying to get into a situation of, yes, of someone, jurors. Let's see, maybe there is someone that in fact fully gets to become basically a social media influencer, some, online popularity for just being a juror on a case. That's certainly not the way the system is supposed to work. But I also, Kohlberg expected to plead guilty to the murders of the 4 University of Idaho students. I'm just not sure how much we need to. I take exception with, we need to learn. We need to learn from him why he did that. And I think there's a problem with that. And then if you have police start to feel like, what's the point? If members of law enforcement start to feel, why should I be out here? I just spent, time outside of a courthouse where you had state troopers standing, and people would go right up to them and say, blank you, you're corrupt. And they have to stand there and take it. Like, why should they have to take that? It's absolutely absurd that they, and who are these individuals that do that? But pay attention to what's going on with this Democrat socialist in New York City. I'm glad President Trump talked about him. I played it on the radio show, and he was saying, I heard he's not legally here, which I like. You have 2 different parallels. Look here in the Northeast. Here in the Northeast, it feels like law and order is breaking down. It feels like our justice system is kind of eroding a little bit. In Florida, they're building alligator Alcatraz, which I like the idea of that. Not only are you incarcerated, but if you try to escape, you're surrounded by alligators. I kind of like the sound of that. I do like the sound of that. I love that when he's talking. He also said, by the way, and I like this, President Trump said about the mayor of New York. Well, we give New York a lot of federal money. So maybe we're not going to give them the federal money. Maybe we shouldn't be doing that. Whether it's Governor Healy in Mass, or the mayor of New York City, or Governor McGreed. Well, maybe if we have states that are not going to follow the law, maybe we should cut back on the federal aid that they're getting. I mean, New York City can't afford to lose any aid. Think how some other cities could thrive if they had that kind of federal money coming in. But it's like pockets of the country. There's a good thing in the Boston Globe, which I'm going to read in just a moment. But I want to remind you folks, hey, one way to increase the value of your property would be a new roof. That's right, Roofco. Call them today. Roofco, Rhode Island, 401-868-7149. Roofco, Rhode Island, 401-868-7149. Maybe you have a roof that has wind damage, or maybe a leaky roof. Do you have a leaky roof? Or maybe missing lifted or curled shingles, granules in the gutter? Call for a free estimate, Roofco, Rhode Island, 401-868-7149. Free estimate. Call Joe at Roofco, Rhode Island. Now, I share their Facebook page. They have a drone that goes overhead and captures the work being done as they're, assembling and putting on a new roof. And it greatly increases the value of your home or property with a new roof. Roofco, Rhode Island, 401-868-7149. In the Boston Globe, I saw this morning, and I do read the Globe, There's no, I mean, I don't really read the Providence Journal anymore, but there was a good piece, I think it's an opinion piece, that appeared this morning in the Boston Globe. And it had to deal with, excuse me, it dealt with Boston Mayor Michelle Wu. And one of the things that they touch on was what happens when she decided, for whatever reason, that shoplifting should not be a crime. And just because, and you saw that on the West Coast. We saw on the West Coast how much, yeah, your shampoo is locked up in stores thanks to progressives. This is in the Boston Globe. I want to, hold on. I want to just locate it. I have it, and now I just need it in where I could read it. But this is how it started. This is how it started on the West Coast. It started on the West Coast where they suddenly said, from now on, shoplifting is, it's not like a major crime, so we don't think it should really be enforced. Look what it's done to San Francisco. Look what it's done to parts of LA. You've seen the videos of where the people literally go in with bags and just remove things and just start shoplifting. And so this whole notion that somehow where the mayor is saying that, and then as a result of that, 4 years ago, Mayor Wu said shoplifters shouldn't be prosecuted. Now shoplifting is up in Boston. Funny how that works. Stores have put goods behind lock and key, which is why you have to ask a clerk for face wash. If you're wondering why more shampoo at drugstores is locked up than ever before, consider this statistic. Under Boston Mayor Michelle Wu, there was a 55% increase in shoplifting the first half of 2019 and the same period 2024. Even as other crime stats have trended down in Boston, shoplifting, other, quote, minor quality of life crimes, including open drug use, have spread. And though recent steps have been taken to address this rise, many Democrats haven't owned up to the consequences that came from their soft on crime stance. Businesses have been forced to put up plexiglass as a theft deterrent instead of depending on the police. Not only does this contribute to a palpable sense of disorder, it's a political liability for Democrats. Every time a customer has to ask the CVS clerk to unlock the shampoo, Democrats get less popular. It's true. It's ridiculous. Why Democrats? Voters know whose fault it is. They have to ask for locked up face wash. I have talked about this for a very long time now, where progressives don't value quality of life. Progressive Democrats don't value quality of life. It's a shrug. Hey, listen, man, they're going to break into your car. Like, get over it. Just leave it unlocked. That's not a solution. Hey, listen, there's break-ins. Welcome to the big city. It's an attitude. Rachel Rollins, 2018, announced she'd stop prosecuting shoplifters. That same year, state law raised the threshold for felony larceny from 250 to 1,200. Wu supported the reform. Progressives signal leniency on low-level crimes. So then you have the Retailers Association. Shoplifting cost retailers $2 billion. Some regional retailers like Stop and Shop attribute this to all these organized theft rings. Not only does toothbrush under lock and key create an image, rampant shoplifting can affect the viability of retailers to stay open, contributing to pharmacy deserts. And it's all the progressive cities, notice. It's all progressive cities. I talk about Progressives don't value quality of life. We saw that several years ago. There were people that were living in downtown Providence. There was a nightclub that wasn't licensed to operate with music outside. The people that lived in the apartment building were saying, this is crazy. We're listening to this music late into the night. And you had that member of the progressive of the Providence City Council that said, hey, welcome to the big city, okay? As if like part of living in the city is you're going to have to put up with loud noise till 3 a.m. I mean, that's not. It shouldn't be like that. And it wasn't like that when they moved there. That's someone make an excuse for that. Folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Call Corey today, 401-283-9815. Now, they could resurface. I received an email from Rose. Rose was saying she has a tennis court that she would like resurfaced and asked me the name of the company. Rose, call Corey at Quality Asphalt Seal Coating, 401-283-9815. They do that. They'll resurface pickleball, tennis, basketball. They epoxy garages and patios, decorative concrete flooring. They make your pavement look like new, but they can also work on your parking lot for line striping, pothole repair, crack filling. Call them for a free estimate. Quality Asphalt Seal Coating, 401-283-9815, 401-283-9815 for Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Now, James asked me. James has a beautiful yard. James had his grandchildren over. They were playing in the yard, and they got eaten alive by mosquitoes. James said, who is that company that you recommend? Mosquito Joe of Rhode Island, James. They're fantastic. They'll treat your property. I discovered this company. They are fantastic. And their follow-up is remarkable. They let you know before they're going to come. They let you know after they're going to come. Everything is first rate, and then they treat it. As I've said, I had people over. We were sitting outside. And, one of my friends said, I can't believe we're not getting, bitten. Do we need off or candles? And I said, no. I called Mosquito Joe of Rhode Island. So whether it's day or night, you can sit outside. One of my friends said, this is like sitting in a screened-in porch, but there's no screen. Mosquito Joe of Rhode Island, they could do it for your home, property, yard. 401-426-2032. I do share their Facebook page. Now, who else asked me a question? Oh, Margaret. Margaret said, who's the lawn care company? I saw you on Newsmax. I'm going to be on Newsmax again coming up on Monday. And your lawn looked like a golf course. Who is your lawn person? Lawn Doctor of Rhode Island. When they say your best lawn ever guaranteed, they mean it. And no matter where you are, you just log on at lawn, L-A-W-N, lawndoctor.com. Lawn Doctor. Oh, no, it's the full word. Excuse me. LAWN Doctor, DOCTOR, lawndoctor.com. You type in your zip code and you get a quick, easy quote. And they do it all. They start in the early spring with crabgrass control. And then they do professional blend of high calcium limes. Then they do the time release fertilizer. Then in the summertime, they do the time release fertilizer. Then they do grub prevention. Then they'll do the early fall blend of organic-based time-release broadleaf weed control. Then they do a fall. Then they do late fall. Your best lawn ever, guaranteed. And whenever I'm on Newsmax, they always say, wow, look at that yard behind you. Are you at a golf? No, I'm not at a golf course. Lawn Doctor of Rhode Island. Now, who else reached out to me? Jim reached out to me. I heard you mention a plumber. We need a plumber as soon as possible. Call J&B Plumbing, 401-743-9999. 9153. 401-743-9153. J&B Plumbing. They can repair damaged water pipes. They can repair clogged pipelines, and they can replace a water heater. J&B Plumbing. 401-743-9153. Well, folks, again, good afternoon. We will be active this evening. Now, I have prior commitment this afternoon. I will not be live. Starting Monday, we're going to once again pick up our 4:30 show. But I'm just juggling a couple things this week. So it won't be today, tomorrow, definitely not on Friday. Friday night, we will be riding with Westerly Police, people like that. It's raw. It's unedited. You see it in real time. People liked it last week. We were with both Westerly and Cranston. This time, 4th of July, and it's supposed to be very nice out. We'll be down in Westerly, Musquamacut, with the Westerly Police. Hey, who knows? Maybe we're with the police and something happens and we go to Taylor Swift's house. I don't know. She's got a beautiful seaside mansion right there in Watch Hill in Westerly. And so who knows? Who knows what could happen? But it's different. It's original. It happens in real time. There's no editing. We get sometimes people that whatever's happening, and if they language they use is the language they use. And that's just the way it goes. But it's never dull. People really like when we're going blasting with lights and siren. It's like being on a ride, I tell people. People say, what is that? It's like being on a ride. It's just as hilarious as it would seem as you're watching. So we'll be on tomorrow, by the way, with our legal expert, attorney, Stephanie Murphy. We'll talk to her, all of our legal stories. And right now, the big news of the day is the Diddy verdict. Although I didn't follow it that much. I didn't fully get some of the charges. I know they had that former girlfriend that testified. It seemed to be very violent. I don't know what to make of the whole thing, but the charges he was facing, it's very possible that they just failed to meet the burden. So there's that. And then the big trial for Brian Kohlberger is not going to happen with Idaho. And I know, as I mentioned earlier, there's a number of people that have said about that he's allowed to take the plea deal without the big trial, and then that way there's no death penalty. But I could see where there are family members saying, we don't want to go through a trial. It's exhausting for a trial. It's draining, and it would become very graphic. And I agree with the people that say, I'm not really convinced you'd learn anything. All right, if you're listening to the news, listening to the radio, stay tuned for the 2:00 news. Everyone else, we will be out tonight with Road Patrol Live. Stay cool on this Wednesday.